Hey everyone, welcome back to part two of LeanTossup Sports, the sharpest college football podcast. I am BuckMetrics. I'm joined as always by Robert Martin. Robert, you ready to look forward to some week four stuff in part two
Yes.
here? Alrighty.
Yeah. So the thing is, I will say that we're now at a point where there is now three, kind of four-ish weeks of college football data in the model. So you've got week 0, right? Week 1, 2, 3. So now the model is getting a lot sharper at this. There was a lot of kind of misses early on, which is completely understandable. But now we're starting to get the majority of the data is from this year, and we're starting to get a lot better read on these teams. And this is where the model kind of starts excelling, especially in these first kind of weeks where people think some teams are going to do something, and then the model. Usually, the model. I think you have it as well, where your model kind of finds an edge in like week 5, week 6, and then towards the end of the season we lose a little
Mm-hmm.
bit of that edge. But I think it's really interesting in these kind of first weeks of the season. So I think it's pretty good.
Yeah, I'm glad you brought that up. To that point, I'm going to refer to some things in my model. I purposely don't throw anything out there for public consumption until next week. I kind of liken it to it puts some things into focus, but it's very blurry still. But you can still make out some figures. So if I've got basically wrong teams favored at this point, based on my model, that's kind of the plays that I'll take a second look at. And it just kind of informs maybe who's just really extreme. In part one, we talked about the Sam Houston offense. I don't know if they're negative 50 points bad, but I'm very comfortable in saying they're clearly the worst offense in FBS. So that's the kind of stuff where you get a flavor for, I guess, the extremes, if nothing else.
Mm-hmm.
Oops. All right. So speaking of my metrics, got a few here to share. The top Apex quarterbacks through week 3: Caleb, Sam Hartman, Michael Penix, Dylan Gabriel. Nothing really news breaking here. Jackson Dart, I think this is his first appearance on the top 10 Apex list. Caden Salter, also I think this is his first appearance. A lot of Liberty offense in the metrics. Like I said in
Yeah.
part one, they're a menace. As somebody who likes or liked Western Kentucky before the season, Liberty is no joke, man. Proof of concept right away. Brady Cook, number 8. We're going to get more to that later, but there's a little bit of enjoyment on my end for that. Darren Granger, number 9. I don't know if you remember in the Sunbelt preview, I said in the East, if Tim Beck does what I expect, and that is ruin Grayson McCall, Georgia State probably has the best quarterback in the Sun Belt. So I can say it's a case through week 3. He was awesome last week. Um, any surprises on here? Any comments on the quarterbacks that you see here?
No, I mean, most of these are pretty consistent with what I kind of think. I'm not. I still am not completely sold on Jackson Dart from Ole Miss. I don't know what it is. I don't like. I get the stats are there, but it's just like ah. I'm not completely sold on him. And Brady Cook, a little bit of surprise there. Also, Darren Granger. It's interesting with the Georgia State quarterbacks. I saw when the lines came out for this week. My first, I like the first line was out. I saw Coastal Carolina -7 against Georgia State. My model had Georgia State as actually pretty big favorites in that. I immediately took it at 6.5 now. And then now you're saying, oh, this quarterback is really good. So I'm like, okay, maybe that now the model is seeing that as well compared to
Yeah.
to Coastal. So yeah, I think that's
Yeah. One
it's
one
really
point
good.
on Jackson Dart, to be fair. You know, Mississippi handled Tulane, and I know that Tulane was without Pratt, the quarterback, but Tulane's defense is for real. So you've got a legitimate defense in that 203 that he's facing. So um, I'll put it this way: I think that he right now would be the best SEC quarterback. I don't know if that's a zero controversy or 100% controversial take, but
Well,
um,
if not him, who
not just my
else, right?
stats, but that's kind of, yeah. I mean, it's not like he's beaten out a bunch of Hall of Famers.
Mhm.
That could give them the leg up. It's interesting, and we'll come back to some other stuff about Mississippi later. Top Ryan. A lot of names are the same here. The thing that really sticks out to me, you've got a UMass guy without the Moon God. Very well done. There's a Vandy player. Uh, Here's a Liberty player. Uh-oh. I'm going to say it again. Liberty's a menace. They scare me. But what is just shocking to me in the Pac-12 preview, I went ballistic, just saying it's unbelievable that Arizona has this awesome offensive system that has 3 players in the top 100 of Apex. They were the only team to do that. Washington has 3 of the top 10.
Yeah.
That's insane. It's nuts.
Well, here's the thing. So I will actually say that that is insane, but I will also add that I am a little concerned about the fact that their only offensive weapon is just passing the ball. Like, here's the thing. It looks great in our metrics. It looks great on a stat sheet. Oh, he throws for 400 yards. And I actually smashed Michael Penix Jr. over this weekend, and he hit that in the second quarter. It was like 320 some odd yards. I had him going for like 400. I'm like, this isn't even close. I think he ended up with like 470 something. Like, wasn't even close. Wasn't even over my projections. The problem is, it's all well and good when
Yes.
you just pass the ball and score a bunch of touchdowns. What happens when you play against a team that you can't do that against? It's one thing to do that against Tulsa and Michigan State teams. I mean, Michigan State's horrendous against the pass. Just ask Ohio State the last couple of years. What happens when you play it now again? The Pac-12 is not particularly good for this either. It's not like USC is amazing at shutting. They don't have a lot of shutdown corners at USC, but this is the thing, right? There will come a time when Washington will play against a team that can stop them from passing the ball, and if they can't run the ball, they're going to have some problems. So watch out. I mean, here's the thing. I'm amazed at how well Washington is doing right now. Now, to be fair, they've played the best team they played Michigan State, but Michigan State has just fired. We'll say he's fired. He wasn't technically fired, but it's firing. They've fired their head coach, and this is the thing, right? So uh, watch out for when Washington plays a team that they can't pass for 500 yards against.
Fair. And hold on to that. We've got some defensive metrics coming up that might inform the discussion a little bit.
Okay.
Um, Oops. Go back over here. My the team top Ryans. So this is basically just by the teams. It's a little different, teams versus players. What sticks out to me, and you can just poo poo this later when we get to the other side of that, but look at the gap between Washington and the number 5 team. It's nuts. I mean, they're over 200 head of USC. Great. They're almost, they're over 500 against, or over 400 head of Notre Dame, which it was number fifth in the country, which is crazy. Um, I mean, to be that far ahead of USC, who's just kind of just passing at will, is nuts. We'll have a little more rounding that in a second here. These are all pretty good passing offense. The one that really surprises me is Vanderbilt. Texas A&M we saw coming with the hiring of Petrino. North Carolina surprises me a little bit with Chip Lindsey. I thought that he was going to screw up their offense, and I need to maybe this is a deeper dive in the future. Massachusetts, and that's only with one game from the Moon God. I got to dig in and see what the heck's going on there. That does not compute. They were so bad on offense last season.
Yeah, they're a fascinating one as well. North Carolina as well. I in the preseason I always talked about North Carolina is going to be a team that's going to screw up somewhere. Their defense is going to let them down. They're going to have to go into a shootout, and they're just going to lose a shootout somehow. They've been a pretty dominant team. They took down a South Carolina team that played Georgia pretty hard. They took down a Minnesota team. Now, this week they played Pitt. So, but they're weirdly not massive favorites against Pitt. They should be massive favorites against Pitt. That's
Yeah,
very weird. And that's a little concerning. I'm still I got North Carolina minus 6.5 before that line went up. But I just, this team is actually pretty good. And now, of course, we could be saying this in that horrible Mac Brown game could be just around the corner, but like they're a pretty legitimate team this year. Like they're really good on offense. Drake May actually looks really good, and they're actually really good on defense. They seem to be really shutting down teams on defense as well. So
hmm
we'll
one other thing, just Colorado's ahead of Oklahoma, and Oklahoma had the benefit of playing just horrible Arkansas State. Colorado's passing offense is for real. I'll definitely say that. That's Sean Lewis, the former Kent State head coach, who is actually rumored to be in line or one of the candidates for the Michigan State job. That would be an interesting fit.
Mm-hmm.
All right. So top GGAB. This is basically a measure of your cumulative effect of running the ball. Here we go again. Menace again. Liberty #1. I don't want to face this team, man. That's not a Conference USA team. That's a team I do not want to face. Central Florida getting a lot of mileage out of that Kent State game in week 1. To your point that you're making about Washington earlier, USC is in the top 10 here, and Washington is not, and that might be the difference between the two. I get a little freaked out when I see how easily Washington throws the ball, but I think USC, to your point, is a more well-rounded offense. Now, it might be kind of a coach's decision to that in terms of just the choice to run the ball more on USC's end versus Washington's throwing it deeper into the ball game, but who knows? You've also got North Carolina here, excelling on the ground and in the air, which I just noticed now. That's a tough combo. Maybe sneakily kind of another analog to Liberty in the ACC. And New Mexico State. Now, I think they've got 4 games, so that's probably a little skewed since this is a cumulative stat. But, hey, who thought New Mexico State would have an awesome running offense coming into the season outside of this podcast, though, right?
Yeah. No, and New Mexico State has actually looked pretty good. Again, the Dogs last week. Dogs this week against Hawaii. That's going to be an after dark game. I think that game starts at midnight, so it's even after dark. But no, like Rutgers has been doing amazingly well so far this season. It's kind of crazy how well they've been doing so far this year.
Yeah.
But UCF and Liberty have also been kind of surprises there on just dominance in terms of running the ball. So, yeah, some of these are fascinating. Some of these are expected, but some of these are really interesting in terms of at least Liberty and Rutgers. I'd say are up there. And what a turnaround for Liberty as well with Chadwick.
Yeah. Thanks for bringing that up about Rutgers. I passed over that, but that's one interesting point, and there's more on Rutgers later. I was just looking up on my phone. I feel a lot less bad about Mexico State getting, losing by 3 scores to Liberty now, just seeing as Liberty is basically, kind of an unstoppable offense. You don't want them to do this, then they'll run that. You don't want them to run, then they'll pass on your ass. And if you try to stop them on the air, they clearly are comfortable running the ball. So makes me a little more bullish on New Mexico State. I like them coming into the season. I'm going to make a note. I might grab New Mexico State in the late game because they're actually getting like 2.5 or so, right?
Yeah, I think that's 2. Last time I saw they were getting 2.5 against Hawaii, which is 100% teaser. It's up to 3. It's 3. You're giving
I gotta
our
take that.
Aggies 3
yeah.
against a team that struggled to beat an FBS team, Albany. Albany's not winning many national championships at the FCS level. They struggled to beat them. All right.
Yeah, I'm grabbing that. That game's not on TV though, is it? Those late kicks aren't on.
It might be that weird. They do those weird games on like Spectrum, but for some reason the streaming sites don't have. Like I can't even. Somehow Spectrum Sports Hawaii is somehow completely evaded streaming sites. They can't even. They don't even. I'm not sure if it's that they don't want to spend. They don't want to expend the time to pirate the stream, or the people who just have it.
It's low. They don't have a signal. It's just it only goes like 100 miles around the islands, and that's it. Maybe.
I think there was the one. I remember the one game. There was a Hawaii game. I think a couple of years ago that I watched. I actually think it was against New Mexico State too. It was that weird. It was that year when they played them twice, where like I could only watch it on my phone. You could download the Spectrum Sports app and you could watch it on your
Mm,
phone, but I couldn't watch it on my computer. So I will see if we can find that game and we will watch. Like now, I actually have a rooting interest in this Hawaii game. So let's if now and that was before I had a tablet. I have a tablet now, so now I can actually watch it in more than
there
like
you go.
4 pixels. So yeah,
Yes.
we might be watching this on a Spectrum Sports app.
Okay. Um, I've expanded the bum lists just because, and really Sam Houston State is the inspiration here. Their quarterback just he doesn't he has so few yards that he doesn't even grab that make the data grab for the bum list. So I just had to do a team. Ryan also, actually that's Apex. Pardon me. Um, but here, the bum list. The Greek rifle, he got hurt in that game in North Carolina, so I think he's going to be out for a while. Luke Altmaier making me look really stupid. I had high hopes for him in that Illinois offense, but he has stunk. DeQuan Finn, like I said in the MAC preview, he is overrated, and this is still a story that people don't get. The guy can run, but everybody is saying he's the best quarterback in the MAC, and that is way, way, way off base. He is probably the worst so far. Brandon Armstrong is a surprise. Going down to Billy Wiles, we've talked about that in Southern Miss, that whole mess that is. Cade McNamara, hey, how about this? He's on the bum list. Nobody else saw that coming with that transfer, right? EJ Warner, this one hurts. Hopefully he gets out of that soon. On the team side, like I said, this is really just to highlight the folks that just don't even have enough passing yards or attempts to really make the bum list individually. ULM, this surprises me. They're just horrible. Sam Houston State is just, we talked about them in part one. They are the Iowa of Conference USA. South Florida, Wyoming, I guess they run the ball really well to have some good efforts here. And there's Pittsburgh. Good job, guys. There's your guy Frank Signetti just working the magic at Pitt. Any
Yeah,
surprises or comments on the bum lists, plural?
I mean Pitt being 124 or among the bottom 10 is crazy up there. Even South Florida being 131 is kind of a bit interesting. Sam Houston State having uh, Ryan of I think Apex of 9 is yeah. Florida Atlantic is also interesting too. We had high hopes for Casey Thompson, and now he also got
Yeah.
injured this week. So, but I'm really confused why FAU's massively underperformed. So that's kind of sad, but um, yeah, it's
Yeah.
but yeah, Cade McNamara again, fascinating one there because people were like, "Oh, this is going to fix the offense, guys. Offense is fixed. Iowa's going to be amazing now."
Yeah.
Soar over 25 points, and to be fair, they did put up 31 points against Western Michigan, so they're back on track now. That's good. But there are, or no, they put up more than 31, didn't they? They put up,
I think like
uh,
40.
yeah, 41. Yeah, that's right. That's right. So they were gonna not cover the spread. So I live bet Western Michigan, I think at 26.5 or something. And then they were not. They were about to They were going to cover it. Like Iowa got the ball left with like 2 minutes left on like the Western Michigan 40, and I'm like, they're just going to run the ball. And then they went aggressive, and then they got another passing touchdown. I'm just like they went aggressive, and like I think they're like that was exactly what I told people to be. I fell for the
Yeah.
trap, right? I was like, they can't even run up the score if they wanted to, and sure enough, they did. So I fell for the trap that I said to watch out for. So that's
I
sad. Yeah.
I think Brian Ferentz actually might visit Sam Houston in the offseason just to see what kind of magic he can pull from their offense.
Yeah.
So, okay. All right, what do we got? And then we got some defensive stats. So this is the defensive apex by team. And again, I should have said this in part one to kick off the whole thing. Liberty is a menace. Look at this. They're second in all of FBS. Marshall's surprising, but I think that's a lot due to quality of opponent too. That should reverse. To your point about Washington earlier. Well, they're going to have to play right now 2 of the top 6 pass defenses as of today. So
Oh,
that'll really be interesting to inform that discussion quite a bit.
yeah.
And Duke is top 10, not surprising, but probably overlooked and underappreciated. And Rutgers, hey, top 10 in rushing and top 10 in pass defense. I think this is really overlooked. Our buddy Isaiah grabbed Rutgers earlier in the week and told us about it. And I said, I don't know about that. And, after I did some prep for this podcast, I actually grabbed some myself. I think Rutgers is really getting overlooked nationally so far.
I kind of think it's a bit of Rutgers is getting overlooked, and I also now the thing is, I thought that spread was going to be bigger. I thought that spread was probably going to be closer to 30 against Michigan, but the books no. The books are like, hey, Rutgers is legit, guys, which is fascinating because Rutgers has not been legit for a very long time, right? And they're like, now the thing is, there's a couple of things I'm worried about for that game because they have been without Harbaugh for 3 games.
Mm-hmm.
There is a chance that they were underperforming for the other coaches, and Harbaugh will kind of get the back end up into shape for this game. There's that. There's the fact that that could be one thing, and basically Michigan could just look absolutely dominant in this game, and then all of a sudden we're like, okay, fine, they're back. But I'm a little iffy on it. That line's a bit short. I wish that line was a little bit longer, but I think for now it's. I don't hate putting something on Rutgers there. I think Rutgers could potentially keep this close. Michigan is kind of due for a scare. They've been kind of playing those teams a little too close the last couple of weeks. I think they're maybe due for something.
Yeah, 2 points. I think that this is I'm going to talk myself into making more of a bet here too. I think this is a very sneaky and overlooked huge step up in quality of opponent. Because if you just read off the first 4 opponents, it's just they just read off just all the same. UNLV, Eastern Carolina. Who did they play last week? Who am I missing here? That Michigan has played. I forget.
Bowling Green.
Bowling Green, Rutgers. I mean, it's all just I'm sure most of the people just see those first 4 as like a golf foursome where nobody's going to beat anybody else by 2 strokes. It's all the same foursome. And guess what? Rutgers is way, way, way ahead of that foursome. They're way different class entirely. Let me ask you this. Where do you have Michigan ranked? And again, in my premature, immature data, I have Michigan. My model does not like them.
I got them ninth.
Okay. Yeah, I have them actually 50th.
Wow.
It's just the quality of opponent that they've played on both sides of the ball. And that's going to skew it a bit, but I'm not going to say Rutgers is a better team, but to how we kicked off this episode, when I've got the wrong team favored per the model, do I really think it's the wrong team? No. But if there's a 21-point discrepancy, am I going to jump over that? Yeah.
Now remember, of course, I got Michigan ninth, but remember I'm still using some of last year's data, so there's a win against Ohio State in there.
Yeah, true.
And a pretty dominant win against Ohio State as well. So that might be potentially why. So again, it's hard early in the season, but I think for some of those, I think it's not like I'm kind of probably stay away from it. If that spread was higher, I would have taken Rutgers, and I might still if there's some money put on Michigan. If that gets closer to 3 scores, maybe. But at this point, I'm still not. I don't know if I can take Rutgers yet. I'll see. We'll see.
Yeah, I think your model actually is what kept me from making that a bigger play. But I've talked myself into doubling up there. And then here's their top defenses against the run. And starting from the bottom, there's Rutgers again. So top 10 running the ball, top 10 defending the run, and top 10 against the pass. Interesting. Texas, interesting. They haven't played awesome offenses, but hey, it's early. Maybe it's legitimate. Alabama, I think, is a for real defense. That's not my problem with them. This is promising for Oklahoma. That they're top 5 here, considering how good their offense is. Now, playing Arkansas State really helps in that regard. And this is run, so this is where Tulane is top 10, not against the pass, to my point about Jackson Dart. Old Dominion is interesting. The real thing that, point out about UTSA is they just played Army. So since this is a cumulative stat, this skews out a little bit since there's a lot of rushes into that. Now, they did well against Army, but I think that's more of a quantity than quality measure there, as much as anything for UTSA. Um, the thing that sticks out to me really is just Rutgers being, top 10 on both sides. I think they're the only one. Let me just toggle back here real quick. I don't think anybody else was top 10 in both. Yeah, I think they're the only one that's top 10 in both, which is,
Yeah, that's very good. Yeah.
it's, I'm going to talk myself into tripling that up by the time this part two is over here.
I'm starting to see that too. What do I actually have as the spread? What do I have? I think I have like what 30 something. I think 31. That's not that far off from 24 as a score. And I think if
It's
you
on the
didn't
wrong
have
side
that
of it,
game
though.
against, yeah, no, it's on the
Yeah,
wrong side of it. But if you don't have that Ohio State game in there, and there's some bad Rutgers games in there too, maybe I'll
yeah.
see. I'll think about it. I think.
I think that's a point that you're probably missing too, because we're talking about with Isaiah. Um, Rutgers has a new offensive coordinator, Chiraka from Minnesota, and you can
Mhm.
see going back to the bum list. Kalik Manis, the Greek rifle, he actually had an apex of like 120 last season in his first five starts against some really good defenses. And I
Mhm.
think the huge step back he's taken was because Chiraka left Minnesota for Rutgers, and I think you're probably seeing the other side of that on the Rutgers offense as well. So that'd be interesting. Just if you toss the Ohio State game for Michigan and just the prior season stuff for Rutgers and see if you resim it out what that looks like.
That's actually interesting because Minnesota has been horrible on
Yeah,
offense. Like they have
yeah,
not looked like themselves at all, and yet this guy's come to Rutgers and now suddenly Rutgers looks good. Like there's something there with that. So
yeah, yeah.
yeah.
All right, what else we got here? Oh, so I mentioned last week that I was going to do this with the rule changes. I wanted to see and quantify the change in the number of points and snaps per game. And I wanted to do it through week 3, so it's an apples to apples comparison. So I threw out the COVID year because it was like the Royal Rumble, where different teams just ran down and jumped into the ring at different times. So I don't really have a week 1, 2, 3 for that season. But this is interesting, and I hate when the market is right. But like the informed opinions I had heard of, basically they thought there's going to be a reduction of like 5 to 8%, and that seems to be right. So the points per game are down just about 6%. The snaps per game, now that's offensive snaps based on my data. I don't have that means I don't have kickoffs or punts, so it's not exact, but it's a good enough proxy. So that's where really the delta is. There's 5.5% delta in that, and there's just a little bit of a drop in offensive efficiency per play. Um, and then I was kind of curious, well, how does this progress first 3 weeks versus the regular season? And it's you've got this in terms of points per game is up. This was up, and then 22 was down. The efficiency is basically up, 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 which makes sense as you basically through the season your offense gets a little better. Your snaps are basically down, flat, down, which is interesting. So I can't really find any big trends. So I was looking to see, okay, did things really hurry up, or does the scoring really take off after the first 3 weeks? And no. So can we use this behavior right here, the -6%, basically about in points per game, and extrapolate that going forward? And I'm just going to use that until I have better data. So, I've kind of, my rule of thumb has been going back to here and for seasons prior, 56 points per game is my baseline when I'm doing my projections. So, starting this season, I've actually taken that down to 52 points until further notice.
Yeah. And it's a small drop, but even so the thing is the snap count has definitely dropped, but the points have dropped a bit, but they seem a bit resilient there. Like I kind of feel like I feel like I feel like if you're seeing that many a drop in that many snaps, you should probably see a bigger drop in points. But I feel like people have started adjusting a little bit, or at least
I
on the snap count. Like the snap, like you're basically seeing a drop of like from basically 6 from last year but from the years ahead, only a drop of 2 or 3. So I think people are adjusting getting snaps in faster. But the points have fallen by about a field goal, which is like, actually, that's a bit more outsized than you would think. So I think they've adjusted to start getting the line of scrimmage faster, but I think the points have. I think because they're getting the line of scrimmage faster, they're messing up some plays, and that's what's causing some drives to die, and that's why you're seeing about the equivalent of about a field-ish goal from materializing.
Yeah, I was surprised that it was that these two, the snaps and the points, there was such a strong correlation. I thought that it might mean like, all right, well maybe that's just a drive that dies versus one more drive, or if
Mm-hmm.
it's 3 points, does that imply that okay, maybe there's one drive per half that gets truncated and one of those winds up in a field goal, kind of to put a narrative behind it. And I guess that's kind of what we're seeing big picture.
Yeah.
I guess that makes sense. So, but yeah, 52 is my baseline now going forward. All right, market intelligence. So these are some games that I'm just kind of wondering what on earth is going on here, and what can we learn, and what is the market telling us that we need to kind of listen to? Wisconsin giving
Yeah.
7 at Purdue. I thought that line should have been bigger. And I don't want to like make a big deal about a one thing, but in part one, I talked about Purdue giving up almost 200 rushing yards to the Syracuse quarterback. Wisconsin kind of screwed around for way too long against Georgia Southern. I think this is saying that, all right, first road conference game for the Badgers, and they haven't. This is just a different kind of opponent. Although, yeah, they played at Wazoo. Um, yeah, I don't know. I guess is this more of a Purdue's maybe better than some people think, or Wisconsin's not as good as some people think?
It's so I have like Wisconsin is massive favorites here. Um, the thing is, it is very weird for me because Hudson Card looked very good against Fresno State in that opener, and we're like, oh, maybe Purdue's going to be legit. And now they did pull off the win against Virginia Tech, but they did not. Hudson Card did not look nearly as good in that win against Virginia Tech. And then last week, my model actually, I think I originally had as like I think I had basically no value on the spread, but then when I updated my model and cleaned up some stuff, the model had Syracuse as big favorites, didn't play it, and then Syracuse won that in a big favorite. So I kind of think Purdue might be kind of bad. So at least my model thinks Purdue is pretty bad. So that's why I already took some Wisconsin -7 here. It's down to 6.5. So there's clearly money on Purdue, or something is on Purdue here. Some people are believing in
Yeah.
Purdue. I just like good luck with that. Power to you, and I'm not touching that. I'm gonna take the team that did that. I'm like again. You've got, as we saw last week, Garrett Schrader ran
Oh,
for 150, almost 200 yards. You've
yeah,
got
yeah.
two amazing running backs on Wisconsin, Braylon Allen and what's the other guy's name? Ches Malusi.
That Lucy, yeah.
I've got them running for, oh god, okay, that's probably a bit off, but I've got them running for 200 no 360 yards. That's probably a bit high. But like they could potentially do that on Friday night. They could run for 300 some odd yards against this Purdue defense, and like that's the problem, right? This Wisconsin team is just going to pound and pound and pound and pound again, and like good luck with that. Like, and then again, when they decide not to, then Tanner Mordecai is going to throw a deep bomb and get a touchdown, right? So, yeah, I'm not. I don't know why people are on Purdue here, but I'm on Wisconsin on this one.
Yeah, my model actually has Purdue by 9 here. I'm thinking just what I'm inferring is, or maybe what I'm guessing what the model is inferring is it's giving a lot of credit for the close loss to Fresno State because Fresno State just absolutely they shut out ASU in Tempe. So maybe that kind of transitively gives them a little more strength of schedule.
My model also might just be overreacting because of that game. Because it's like, oh, Purdue let up so many rushing yards against a team that's not particularly good at rushing. Like
Uh,
Syracuse is like okay at rushing, but not like amazing at rushing. It's like you give up so many rushing yards to them, you're gonna get absolutely dominated by the best rushing team in college football, right? So good luck, right? And
gotcha.
I think that's why. it has that there.
Fair. All right, Arizona only giving 11 at Stanford. Hey, you know, I know that one of the first impressions might be, well, Stanford just lost to Sacramento State, which is not fun, obviously. But you know what? You see this every once in a while when a coach plays his old team in his first year at a new gig, especially early in the season. His old team knows the plays better than his current offense does. And you can see that struggle happening quite a bit. And I think that's what you're seeing here with this 11-point line. Because if you just were to just stare at the sky and not run it through a model, I would have come up with a line closer to about 3 scores rather than 11. What are you thinking?
So my thinking on this is you, and this all ties together. You see, week one, Hawaii plays Vanderbilt close. People are suddenly high on Hawaii. Oh, maybe Hawaii's a good team. Then Stanford destroys Hawaii. Okay, maybe Hawaii's not that good. But then Vanderbilt goes on to lose to UNLV. So, okay, maybe Vanderbilt's not good as well, and Hawaii's not good. And then Stanford in their next game goes off to get destroyed, absolutely annihilated by USC. So now it's like, okay, we thought Hawaii was okay. Then they got beat badly by Stanford, so Hawaii goes down the rankings. Then Stanford gets destroyed. Then the team that they destroyed also got beat by an even worse team. So then that pushes Stanford down even further. And my model has Arizona as like a 55-point favorite. Now that's probably wrong because they probably just stop at
Yeah.
some point. But my model thinks Stanford is absolutely horrible. And to be honest, they lost to Sacramento State, an FCS team. I think a okay-ish FCS team. That's probably why he got the Stanford job. To be fair,
Yeah.
but my model is out on the Stanford team, and it likes Arizona. I think although Arizona did let UTEP do a lot on offense, they eventually just
Yeah.
handled that game and then just put them away. And they just kind of just started in the third. Like Jaden Allure just kept going after and going and going and going, and he got 3 passing touchdowns in that game. They just kept scoring, and I think I'm not worried about Arizona being up 7 late and then not pushing for that 14, or being up 14 and not pushing for that 21. So that's why I'm kind of on. I like Arizona. I think I grabbed this at 10. I think it's up to 11 now, so I'm happy with that. But I I kind of am happy with. I don't think I'm really low on Stanford. I think I get that people would maybe hang at 11 because of the Stanford name and stuff, and because they had a really good win against Hawaii.
Yeah.
But like the problem is when you look at the deeper modeling, Stanford's win against Hawaii is looking worse by the hour, considering the fact that Hawaii, like the team that was tied with Hawaii, lost to UNLV, and Hawaii needed a lot of help to take out an FCS team. They beat an FCS team by 10. It's not great. So yeah, I'm not the biggest fans of. I think Stanford is in trouble here.
And maybe to that point, I was wondering if that line looks a little short, and maybe the market's kind of picking up to just how bad the Arizona defense is, as I talked about in part one. Maybe there's not an edge there. Maybe they've got their equivalent of me out there. That's seeing that just how sneakily bad they did against UTEP. The total here is 58.52, which is interesting, given that the average now, as we just talked about, is 52. Yeah, that would just kind of tell me that maybe the market's telling us that Arizona's defense is bad. All right, next FAU at Illinois. Illinois giving only 13, and Casey Thompson's out. This line seems really short. I'm not sure what I'm missing. I just spoke a while ago about how horrible Luke Altmaier's been, but man, FAU has been even worse. And what am I missing here? I don't get this. This should be closer to almost 3 scores, don't you think?
My model actually has it as Illinois minus 8.8.
Really?
I was under 10. Yeah, I'm actually. I'm looking at that now. I'm actually kind of surprised. My model's really out on Illinois, so I'm actually kind of surprised by that. Maybe Casey Thompson wasn't doing so well, and the new guy is coming in, and he's actually not half bad. Let's see, what do I have? I have him as not horrendous. Um, not. I have him as more passing yards than Luke Altmaier. That's kind of interesting. Um, But yeah, maybe the new upgraded quarterback, maybe Tom Herman and Casey Thompson just weren't gelling. Maybe this is a positive change potentially. I don't know. I look at that -11. I thought that was a little low too, and I think that's what they expect people to think. But maybe Florida Atlantic can pull off a little bit of an upset here.
Yeah, the okay. So if the total's 47, that means it's projecting to be 30-17. Maybe. All right, I could. Yeah, that 17 seems a little ambitious for FAU. Um,
Mm-hmm.
I don't know. Yeah, I don't know. I guess I just my model, all my numbers, even the apex was independent of my model. It just has them so bad too. Um, yeah, I don't know. I'm scared to bet this one just because when it doesn't make sense and there's not something that I see that my model's missing,
Mm-hmm.
I'll just kind of stay away. All right, next one. Boise giving 7 at SDSU. I bring this up because SDSU is kind of on a do not resuscitate notice right now. And guess what, Boise? If you're not in trouble, you'd be given a lot more than 7 playing against dead team walking. Um, I read this as Boise's, like I called them before, and I'm even more so now, dead money Boise. That's what they are. You agree with how I'm seeing this one?
I've got Boise -4.8. So
Oh,
I have value on this.
that's
I can't I am struggling now.
yeah.
It's a
Don't do it.
Friday night game,
No,
which
don't.
means I
You know
know I
what?
shouldn't. I know I shouldn't.
The
But
the
that's
yes.
the thing, right? I know I shouldn't, but there's clear value on San Diego State here. I don't know if I can bring myself to do it because it's two teams that I'm out on,
Yeah.
and oh no, it's a 10:30 game. That's my kryptonite. The
That's
standalone
yeah.
Pac-12 after dark Friday night game. Oh no.
Although
Okay.
to your point, it was. I don't know if anybody Boise remembers this. Maybe I'm the only sicko. If you want to talk about who gets the sicko membership, week 4, Friday night of last year, that
New
was when
Mexico's.
Boise made that trip to UTEP, and that
Yep.
was the last time that Tim Plow coached for Boise. Oh man, that's resonant. Good luck. Good luck betting on. Don't tell me if you bet on Brady Hoke here, because if you lose that, I will make fun of you. I love you a lot, but
I
you're gonna
know.
get
I
it.
know. See, that's the thing. See, my model says there's value, but I don't want to. But there's value, but I don't want to.
No.
like, I know. There's better. There's better place. There's better place. I'm not. I'm maybe not. Will not touch that. But
Yeah, and
yeah,
it's almost like in the video game when you have two players whose energy is down below 5%, and you're almost kind of betting on which one's going to go to zero first. That's kind of how that one strikes me. All right,
yeah.
I'm gonna confuse myself on the next one here, but I'm just gonna throw out some. I might just go word salad, and you can kind of put some structure around it. Rice is giving 2 to South Florida. So if South Florida came within 14 of Alabama, does that mean that Rice would be a 12-point dog to Alabama? There's something that doesn't line up here. I maybe it's just that is. I don't know. There's something
That
that
would be
doesn't line up between the three.
by the transitive property of spreads. Now again, adjust for home and away, whatever. But yeah, basically, yeah.
Both of these are at South Florida. Yeah, so I
Oh,
guess
okay.
okay. If Alabama and Rice played at South Florida, Alabama will be giving 12.
There was a
Um,
hurricane in Alabama, so they couldn't play in the stadium. So Rice
yeah,
played Alabama in South Florida, where there was apparently not a hurricane in this fictional universe. And I think then Bama would be. Now the thing is, to be fair, USF was 33-point underdogs to Bama. I grabbed them at 24 mid game, and it's again, it's just oh cool, I win. It's literally at I grabbed it when it was. Now I grabbed the money line too, which that was so sad because it was 20. I think it was
oh,
plus 22, and it's just oh, you could have. I mean, it's whatever, right? But so sad. But it was one of those ones where it's it was literally. I grabbed that when I think when Alabama got the field goal, and I'm they're not doing anything today. I grabbed that, and then it was tied 3-3 with a couple minutes left in the second, and then it was delayed because of a heavy downpour. I'm well, I guess I won that bet. I'm there's no way. It's over. Like it's there's like one, it's Bama is not looking good today, and two, there's heavy rain, so good luck scoring. Period. So yeah, cool. I won that bet. So, but no, and sure enough, I did, and it's even worse potentially. But no, it's yeah. What do I have Rice at here? I'm trying to find it. I've got South Florida minus 4.5. That's kind
Mm.
of interesting. But I'm not touching this. This is you don't
Yeah,
touch this game.
it's like pieces from two different puzzles that you're just trying to put together. Just
Yeah.
it's just weird that I don't know what should be. That's why I said I'm going to confuse myself. All right. So as this has become the official Liberty is a Menace episode, they're only given 10.5 at FIU. Um, is the market onto our guy Keon Jenkins already, or are they overlooking just what a menace Liberty is?
I think it's kind of a bit of both. I think the market is like, okay, FIU's got a good new quarterback, so maybe they could be good. But I think, like, look, I actually have Liberty as 24-point favorites here. And again, we said the same thing last week, right? You were like, oh man, Liberty only 3.5-point favorites against Buffalo seems pretty short. And I'm like, nope. And that was a blowout, an absolute blowout, right? So I'm not I'm not the most concerned about that. I think Liberty is legit and for real. I think they're one of the better teams in not a Power Five conference. So I don't know. I just don't know if I want to play this or not. But I don't know. They're probably, my book's not gonna give me they're not gonna give me player props for this. So
Yeah, I guess
which
I'm
would
a
be kind of
smaller.
sad. Because
Yeah.
I'd love Keon. I love Keon Jenkins props, but so I'm throwing for 350 yards, 22 for 39. Again, in the comeback, right? Trying to get kind of desperation comeback plays, right? So I don't know, maybe I can get some props on this, but probably not. But I don't know. I might leave this one alone. I'd say I'd lean Liberty. I'd love to see where the model comes out from the end on this.
Okay. This next one, I think there's only one way to read it. Houston giving 13, hosting Sam Houston. Well, as we talked about, Sam Houston has one field goal and zero touchdowns on the year. This is a vote of no confidence in the Houston offense. Has to be, right?
Yeah, I mean the thing is, I just realized this now. We're sitting here with Sam Houston State just completely breaking both of our models. It's got to be breaking the books models too, right? Like,
Yeah.
there's no way they're sitting
Yeah.
there like there's someone probably sitting there freaking out and be like, what we had like our total on Sam Houston State was like -4. Like, do they score over -4 points? Like, we got to fix that quickly because they can't have negative points. So like, I don't know. I've got Houston as 30-point favorites, but that would be the most points anybody scored against them. So I think they break my model on defense. I think my model just assumes a level of competence on offense that Sam Houston State apparently just stops people from having.
Yeah. What do you
Like
have the score in that one?
39-8.
Okay.
But see, the
39.
problem is my
Okay.
model just kind of like, because it simulates on a play-by-play basis, it just eventually gets them there, right? Like, it's just like, yeah, okay, eventually you get a touchdown, right? Like, the problem is in real life, things break down on a drive. Like, it's like we see a lot more shutouts or just absolute blowouts than the model would say, right? But like in real life, of like in the model, a team just eventually muddles through and eventually just gets a touchdown anyway, and like that's what it's saying. It's saying like they get a touchdown and a field goal, or like maybe a couple like 2, 3 field goals because it averages 8 points. So like, but in real life, when things just break down and then the team gets down on themselves and like we suck at this and they have a longer field, those things snowball against you, right? But in the model, they're always operating at 100%. Like, we're doing this, guys. We got this, and then eventually they just kind of plow through. So, like the model is never going to say a team gets 0 points in a game because it can't. Because eventually it just kind of it just muddles you through. You're like, yeah, I'll get a touchdown or something, right? But eight
Yeah.
points is a very, very low number. It's the lowest total I have for a game. I think for a team, except for maybe the USC game. No, yeah, no. I have USC and Arizona. I have Arizona State getting the same points as Sam Houston State.
Yeah.
So
And yet, I will point out that triples Sam Houston's best performance of the season. Um,
Yeah.
I'm going to talk myself out of something which I know is just fascinating podcasting. I see this and I was thinking, geez, well, Sam Houston's not going to score. So if it's only 13, the under is absolutely the play here. Absolutely, because the total is 38, which at first glance seems really low. But then you said that you have Houston scoring 40 in this game. Is that right?
30, I think. No,
Yeah,
39,
did you
39. I have them scoring 40. But
39?
again, yeah, they just,
And
I
that's
think,
what's
yeah.
interesting. Yeah. And then I've
I,
got him scoring 56.
you,
Um,
you do wonder if though, like I feel like at a certain point the offense just gets frustrated and they're just like we just punt it. Like the model is we're always going to be super aggressive, but if they're not, like it can't factor in the fact that they have zero. They have zero fear of the Sam Houston offense, right? Like say you're on 3rd and 2, you're going to just run the ball. You're like I don't care if we don't get this, we're just going to punt it away, right? You're not being super like the model has similar-ish. It basically codes and things for teams. So the model is probably like, oh, Houston 3rd and 2, they're going to pass. They're just like, no, we're not going to pass. We're just going to run the ball. If we don't get the ball, we're just going to punt it, and we're going to give it. They're going to give it back to us in
uh
3 plays anyways, right? So
fair.
I
That
think
might, yeah.
it's iffy. I'm not sure exactly. I don't know. Sam Houston State just breaks everybody's models. I don't even know what to do with this game. But clearly they've realized the under. I don't know. My only concern is the fact that Sam Houston State's defense has been so good for those 2 games. There is a blowout coming. There is that we just get absolutely destroyed. People figure out what the hell we've been
Well,
doing.
I wouldn't put Houston's offense, well, but my model says otherwise, but I don't think that Houston's offense will be that much better than BYU. I don't know, but Air Force and BYU, eh, I don't know. I don't see it, but I don't know. We'll talk about this when we're talking about the games too. So just we'll keep
Yeah.
that in the back of our mind. And then Southern Miss at Arkansas State. This is kind of the same theme as Boise at SDSU. I mean, Arkansas State is just so sad, and you're only giving 6 at sad state. Means you're sad as well. I just, yeah, and I actually have both these teams under in their season win total, so it's kind of a shame that one of them has to win. But if I don't think either of them is going to win very many after this one for sure.
No. What do I have? Where is this game?
Yeah, you didn't pick it up.
I didn't?
No, no, I don't know
Huh.
what dropped. Yeah,
Oh, I must be
wasn't in
missing a
there.
team, and I must
Yeah,
have one of them
in
scored
the
as
index.
D2, which like they are, but
Well, yeah,
one of them
Arkansas
got
State should
relegated
be.
to one of them got
Yes.
relegated to FCS guys. No one told them.
Yep. Okay. So I think we're in a deeper dive, and I've got one this week, and I've kind of hinted on this a little bit, but I really wanted to dig in the numbers because I was curious about this. So, who killed the Boise offense? The Boise offense has taken a huge step back, and I've really just I've outlined that so far this season, and I wanted to kind of figure out why. So, in the middle here is Bush Hamden, who is now the offensive coordinator for Boise. He was he went from Missouri, and we'll get to that in a second here. So, here's basically the background on him. He actually was a quarterback at Boise, and I think that was when Chris Peterson was the offensive coordinator there. Then he went to be position coach at various schools. I think it was the NFL, maybe for 1 or 2 stints. But his big step up was in 2018 and 19. He was the offensive coordinator for Chris Peterson at Washington. Then when Peterson retired, he went to Missouri as a quarterback coach, and then he was brought in 2023 to run the Boise offense. So how did he do at Washington? So Jonathan Smith, who's obviously a really good head coach, was a really good offensive coordinator. In his 2 seasons at Washington, he had Jake Browning with Apex of 131 and 121. Bush Hamden comes in, there's regression again. Now, there was some, although in 17, Browning actually was hurt and he wasn't the same guy. There was some thinking that Browning just never recovered from that. But if you look the next season, that, the Apex went down again the next season. So you just got this degradation in the performance of the quarterback. I'll point out that the head coach is Chris Peterson, like I said before. So after that, Peterson retires and he goes to Missouri in 2020. So this is interesting. Here's the apex as the quarterback coach at Missouri. Now, the season before, Kelly Bryant had an apex of 103, and I'd forgotten about this. The quarterback coach was Derek Dooley, who's basically not good at anything related to football, which is probably why Tennessee hired him. Um, so Hamden comes in, and the 3 seasons you see just an absolute step down in the apex. Bazelak is okay. Maybe that's a little bit understandable first season as a starter, but then he takes this huge step back in 21, and then Brady Cook's not that good in 22. And then when Hamden goes to Boise, what happens? This new guy, Kirby Moore, comes in from Fresno State as a quarterback coach. And look, the same guy increased so far this season by, what is that, 94 points, 104 points.
Yeah.
And again, the head coach there at Missouri is Eli Drinkwitz. So, for a little bit of context about what Hamden took over, we talked about this just a few minutes ago. The dreaded Boise State to UTEP that killed last season for them. So, in the first 4 games until that trip to UTEP, Tim Plow was the OC for Boise. Hank Bachmeier was a quarterback, and he actually had an apex of 10 for those first 4 games. They fire Plow. They bring in Dirk Cutter, and you can see here his resume, which is he's obviously extremely accomplished. I mean, head coach and offensive coordinator at some very big programs in the NFL. He definitely knows what he's doing. So he took a couple of games to get Taylor Green, correct. Now this is Taylor Green. I think that was his freshman season. So this is his first 2 starts in his career. He took a little bit of time to get going, but once he did, in those last 6 games of last season, he had an apex of 147. So I had said coming into the season, I'm a little curious about this, where everybody was high on Boise and just saying, yeah, this whole crumbling foundation that we had, we fixed it. And what's the fix? Well, the guy who fixed it, Dirk Cutter, is no longer here. But trust us, Andy Avalos hired a really good guy to take care of it. So you can kind of see, here's the apex by school, a really big, really simple graph where you can see Missouri, basically Hamden leaves, and the apex goes up by over 100 points. You've got this drop year to year in what you see at Boise State apex from year to year. So what actually is the cause of this problem? I kind of figured this out, and when I put this all together, you've got, in Washington and Missouri, his 2 big jobs, Hamden, he was the offensive coordinator. I put asterisks here because, like I said in the Mountain West preview, I asked a couple of Husky people who really know football. I said, what do you think about this Hamden guy? And they said, yeah, I don't really have an opinion. I don't know. That was really, Peterson really ran the offense. So we're going to have, not a lot of experience there. And then you've got, he's a QB coach under Drinkwitz. And the thing is, both these guys are longtime offensive figures. Peterson was forever an offensive coordinator before he became head coach at Boise. And Drinkwitz, actually, he goes back to the Gus Malzahn. He actually worked at the high school under Gus Malzahn, Springdale High School in Arkansas. So he's, deep offensive roots. So you've got this, degrading performance here, really degrading performance here, while being tutored by 2 very offensive-minded head coaches. So what really happens, here's where the original sin is. This guy who doesn't know offense at all, Andy Avalos, his background's defensive coordinator. Remember, he was the defensive coordinator at Boise, and then Mario hired him to run a really good defense at Oregon. Then Boise brought him back when Harsin got hired away by Auburn. So now he's an offensive coordinator on his own for the first time without anybody to mentor him in the head coaching position. And I think that's what's really driving the huge step back that we're seeing in the Boise offense this season.
Mm-hmm. I think to sum all this up, I think I can say San Diego State +7.
Good luck. I'm going to reframe that a little bit and say money on Brady Hoke, but hey, to each his own.
No,
it's your narrative.
The thing is, it is fascinating though that you literally, and why do these people get hired? He was like an offensive coordinator in the SEC. Okay, who cares? He was Brady coached nothing. Like Brady Cook
Yeah,
did nothing, and they're like, oh, we're gonna make it like. Why? How do these people? Like, I mean, like it's like it was not really feeling upwards, I guess, because you're going from the SEC to the Mountain West. But like, it's just it's weird. I don't understand why some of these guys are even still in their positions. Like, or like Boise State's a
yeah,
relatively accomplished program. I don't know why they're like, oh, let's get the guy who made Missouri bad. Like, I don't understand.
yeah. And I think it's, he doesn't. This guy is not understanding his shortcomings, and he doesn't understand that he's not going to be able to mentor somebody who is just pretty poor with a strong mentor or two strong mentors, and he's just not seeing crap. This guy needs training wheels, and he's not going to get here. Now, maybe they thought they could have Cutter as like an analyst in the background, kind of helping him, but it ain't working so far. I mean, again, it's not working.
Like
It's not working.
this graph is just. I mean, it is such like again. I think in the future and for next year, we need to like really break down all these coordinator moves and be like, oh, this was his apex at this school, and like I think,
Yeah,
honest, like I mean, where have we like? I mean, we'd probably take a deeper look at this in the off season, but like, have we really seen a school like someone who's like a good offensive coordinator last year go to a different school and be like a bad one or reverse? Like, have we seen one who struggled a year before, gone to a school and turned it around? Like, I don't think we've seen that. Like, some of this stuff is 1-to-1. Like, this is the clear. Like, this is a near perfect correlation here, and I think it's pretty crazy when you're looking at this that like because everybody thinks it's all based on quarterbacks, it's all based on these athletes and stuff, and even Alabama, right? I mean, you could say in some ways Bama's been a victim of its own successes because all those offensive coordinators from Sarkisian um, to what's his face,
yeah,
the guy who's the new offensive coordinator for the Patriots, Bill O'Brien. He's their offensive coordinator now. They they get someone. He's okay. I still have questions about Bill O'Brien. I still have questions about Steve Sarkisian too. But anyways, we'll set those aside for now. They they're there and they're competent for a while, and then they get hired off somewhere else. There's nothing to replace them, and now you're like, okay, let's get the offensive coordinator from Notre Dame who was bad last year, and you complete 10 passes against USF. So yeah,
yeah. I will say to answer your question, yeah, there's some misses. Two examples I'm thinking of. I thought Chip Lindsey was going to just absolutely kill the North Carolina offense, and he hasn't. And that goes totally counter to his mediocre performance. But mediocre performance can inform, like we saw with Signetti. He stunk at Boston College, and then he stunk it up at Pitt. The other one that kind of sticks out in my mind too is some of these times you don't know, and that I bring this up in the context of Miami, where suddenly Mario just decided to butt out and not insist on playing gorilla ball, and he just is all of a sudden. I've lost that underbet I had on them unless he just really reverts to, you know, butting in where he hasn't done it before. But that's the kind of thing that you can't see. But I'd say that more often than not, it's going to be an accurate predictor, and you're never going to be 100%. But you know what? You don't have to be 100%, especially if it's kind of hitting the market and you get plus money on some of these plays.
yeah.
All right. All right. Buck the bookie. Here's the rules. Take a screenshot of that or press pause on YouTube if you want to see what's going on here. Here's your play so far. I think you kind of jinxed Florida State with that big number I gave you on that. Um,
Yeah, you're feeling a bit better about that bet now. I think.
well,
I have no
I
idea.
have much other action on them though,
Yeah, I
personally.
think that's the thing. That's the thing. Like, I'd love to unload this week on Florida State against Clemson. I think I'm not sure if that's a thing we're going to talk about in a second though. But like at the same time, I'd love to do it. But at the same time, I've got so much tied up in. I've got a bit tied up in Florida State futures. I'm a little like, you do really want to double? Now, I think Clemson is bad. I don't even think Clemson's their biggest rival in the ACC. So, but we'll see though. I think for Florida State. So the thing was, it was fascinating because that spread opened a bit low and then it just kept going down. And what I thought is because there was actually the hurricane coming up the East Coast, I thought the hurricane was going to be affecting the game. And they're like, oh, it's going to be a rainy game but there was perfect weather. So like, oh, they're not going to pass. They're going to try to make the game really short, and maybe they don't maybe they just score a couple touchdowns in a horrible condition game with like 100-mile-an-hour winds or something. But nope, everything was pretty good. A bit windy, but nothing too crazy. I almost wonder was Florida State looking ahead to Clemson, right? Were they looking at they
Oh,
are playing them
absolutely.
next week?
Yeah.
They're absolutely looking ahead to Clemson. Boston College was horrible, but they were probably due for a half decent game. I think Florida State got a bit unlucky with some of the stuff. I think there was like a fumble recovery touchdown or something. Boston College got a little bit lucky with stuff. I don't know how reproducible that is. I feel like if you play that game 10 more times, Florida State's going to dominate them most of those times and probably cover the spread. Like I just feel like that was just a fluky thing because I think it was like what? It was like 30-16 and then they got the touchdown to get it within like so like at 30-16 you're much closer to and Florida State was driving. I we're starting to drive, I think. They were a lot closer to covering the spread than not covering the spread, right? So, I mean, it's a bit hypocritical for me to say, oh, well, Texas didn't cover the spread against Thing when Florida State did against Boston College. But to be fair, Boston College is actually a Power 5 school. Wyoming is not a Power 5 school.
Yeah.
So there's that. But at the same time, no, it's like, but we actually have evidence of Florida State being an LSU team that destroyed Mississippi State, where versus the team that Texas beat last week scored 13 against USF. So
Yeah. Well said.
I'm a bit more on Texas there. So in terms of futures here, I'm happy that the Ohio State seems to be coming back alive there. Um,
Yeah.
so I'm happy I have that. SCFP champs at 9-1, 4-1 Penn State. Texas under also coming back to life there too. Definitely in play. I was never that worried about it, but now it's like okay, yeah, there's like a legitimate chance they could. There's like 8-4 is in play potentially too for Texas. Like, don't even rule out 8-4, because like if you get caught by if you get caught by Baylor this week, 8-4 is 100% in play. Hell, 7-5 is in play if they get caught by Baylor this week. Let me think here. What would you give me LSU to win the SEC?
480.
480. Okay. As I'm doing this, I am calling up this right now. Oh, 340. Oh. DraftKings has 340. Yeah, I'll take 50 on that. And what would you give me Florida SEC East? Is that even a market here?
God.
There's no division winners here, unfortunately. All right, okay, it has to be comparable to Thing, right?
Yeah. DraftKings.
Okay, I think there's to. Oh, is it to win? It says Pac-12. It says SEC championship game. Georgia minus 120, LSU plus 340. So it's to win. It has to be to win then, right? Yeah. Okay. Yeah, there's nothing there. Okay, we'll stick with that. I'm happy with my
Okay.
LSU bet there. And I
Okay.
think what else is there? What would you give me JMU to win the the Sun Belt?
Oh,
Or, yeah.
I'll give you plus 9,000.
Wow. Such generous offer there.
Yeah. Yeah.
All right. What about Colorado State to win the Mountain West?
Yeah. That's interesting. I think they actually looked good. They actually looked about as, until they just gave it up at the end. That's a 2.5 team conference too. I don't want your action on that. I won't give you more than 900.
Okay, they DraftKings has 18 to
For
1.
the 18. Yeah.
And Fresno State plus 260 for them. I feel like it's between those two actually. Like we were
Yeah, Air Force is This is where I
Oh,
was
Air
trying to
Force.
dance around it. Air Force is solid.
Yeah. Yeah. Okay, we'll leave that one for now. I'm still not. I don't have enough
Okay.
data on that. But it's gonna be one. Here's the thing. It's one of those three is gonna win the Mountain West.
Yeah.
It's one of those
Yep.
three. I just don't know which.
It
It's
just
not.
yeah.
And Boise is still the favorite, by the way.
I'm sorry. Who
Boise's
you
plus
mean?
240.
Dead Money? Is that you
Yeah.
mean? Wait.
Yeah. It's
You mean? Do you mean this team?
yeah that
Is that
team.
who you're talking about? Okay.
The
I
team where
just
the
want to make
line went
sure.
down. That one.
Yeah.
Yeah. That team
This one.
is the
Yeah.
favorites to win
Okay.
the Mountain West.
We call them Little Blue.
Yeah. Little
Okay.
Blue.
Okay.
All right. Looking ahead.
Okay. Yeah. So just kind of last week's play. You and I individually did well. Together, not so bueno.
Yeah.
New
Just
Mexico State was nice.
weirdness happened. The thing is, we picked big spreads. We probably shouldn't have gone after big spread ones, but again, Florida State and Kansas just weirdly tripped up. I have no idea what happened with those games. And then LA Tech again, we just missed Florida International there.
Yep. Well, no, that they played North Texas. They actually
Oh,
scored
that's right. Yeah,
17
that was
straight
weird
to
too.
come
Yeah,
back.
yeah.
Kansas, I think doubled up on yardage. I don't know how that was a one score game. That was
It
just,
really
I
shouldn't have
don't
been.
know.
Yeah,
That was a really frustrating, weird game.
I live
This is
bet
just, yeah,
Kansas.
wrong place, wrong time.
Yeah, I was betting Kansas live. I bet them live minus 12.5, and then they like immediately had like a 60-yard pass, and we're like at the 5 yard line. I'm like, this is great. And then they did that, and then Nevada had a massive like Nevada just had a bunch of massive explosive plays to just keep themselves back in the game whenever Kansas tried to pull ahead. And I'm not worried about it. I have Kansas this week against BYU. I bet that one already. I think Kansas is a lot better than BYU. Again, just a weird game. Sometimes weird games happen in college football. But I think of the two results of the week, I think Florida State and Kansas were two of the weirder results of the week.
Yeah. Yep. All right. So week 4. The ones in bold are where my brain, this is not my model, just to point out, this is the line that I've set judgmentally. Next week, we'll have my model instead of my brain, which is a lot more profitable, as you guys will see and know from last season. And when your model and my brain show significant margin, that's a play. Those are the ones in bold here. We both really like Mississippi, straight up.
Yeah.
You actually like them more than me, surprisingly.
Where's this
Arkansas and
Bama
LSU,
respect coming from?
you
In your
actually
brain?
have a.
Actually, go back for a second. Where's this respect for
Yeah,
Bama
yeah.
in your brain?
I think it's just if I'm on Bama, I wouldn't, even if I'm going to demand, I wouldn't demand more than like plus 160 or so. I kind of average that with,
Fair.
Yeah, I think that's, I don't know.
So I will
Mississippi
say
hasn't beaten them for a long time.
Well, see, this is the thing. I will say a counterpoint to that. 2 years ago with Matt Corral, I think that was the Bryce Young season where they lost to Georgia in the college football playoff final. I think Bama was 17-point favorites, and that was the game where Lane Kiffin was super crazy aggressive on fourth down, cost them a lot of points that way.
Yeah.
They lost that game, didn't cover the spread. Last year they lost by 6, and I think they massively overcovered the spread. I think the spread was like 14. They definitely covered the spread, whatever the spread was. And they got a lot closer to beating them, and now this is Bama at its weakest, and this is Ole Miss team that has beaten Bama in the past with a different coach, of course, but that was with Hugh Freeze. But this is an Ole Miss team that has played Bama closer and closer, and I think they finally see themselves potential. Like the other thing is, if I nabbed Ole Miss plus 7.5. I nabbed that. I saw it 7.5. It's down to 6.5 now. Again, betting early is so important. Like literally, like you see a line like that, you grab that line. Like literally, as I was watching Colorado State, I was grabbing insane lines like Ole Miss plus 7.5, UCLA plus 6.5. That's completely gone now. Like I bet a bunch of lines that don't even exist anymore. And again, this is just the power of look at those lines, like map out what you think. Now I have my model, so it's easier for me. But map out what you think a line should be ahead of time. You see an early line, you bet that early line, get in there at early value. So no, the thing is though for Ole Miss, they're not like if they're playing Bama, they're not letting up. Like this is going to be like either it's going to be a close game where one side wins in a close game, or it's a blowout. And if it's a blowout, Ole Miss is going to win by like 6. Like they're going to win by 10, 14. Like so, I wouldn't even like. I'm actually, that's a good point. I'm going to look at what the -6.5 is. That might be a little sprinkle, a little something. I'm like, because like Ole
I don't
Miss will
know, man.
destroy them. They will be like, we are a better team. We're here to show you we're the better team. This is like years of revenge baked into this, and Bama's not going to be able to do anything. So, yeah, good luck on that.
Very fair. Yeah, Lane Kiffin might be just trying to be the first name on the list for when Saban retires with a big win there. That seems to work a lot in the SEC.
Mm-hmm.
I liked a little bit LSU, although not enough to bet. And I thought I might just check your model, and your model actually likes Arkansas if
Yeah,
there's a play here, which is surprising.
it's
So
it's
that's a no
weird.
play for
I'm
me.
not. So the thing is, it's weird because my model didn't like LSU last week. Then it covered the spread, and then now in that game I have LSU better. I usually rerun the games from the week before to see what the model would have said after the weeks of data. It then liked LSU massively against the spread against. I think it had a 17-point spread against Ole Miss, which they still covered that, but whatever, you're moving in the right direction. Now it's under on the spread against Arkansas. So the thing is, again, you have to remember that at the end of last season, LSU decided to lose to Texas A&M, and that game is in the model, right? So there is some anchor from the last season dragging LSU down a little bit. Also, they
Yeah,
beat Bama last year, and they were actually competitive. I think they were outgained by Bama in that game, in the second last game of the season. So because of that, that is because now the model thinks Bama is a horrible team. That's also dragging them. That Bama game is also secretly dragging them down too. So watch out next week when I completely drop last season from this. The thing is, I do like LSU. I just thought 17.5 was a little steep. I've always felt that, like, looking at that line, like that's a bit too much. I think now they could cover it, and they may actually, but that 17.5, it just felt like too big of a number for me. So I'm probably going to lay off that.
man. It's just at home though. I mean,
That's true.
yeah. Okay. UNC at Pitt. We talked about this in part one. We both agree on this. You got this at a better number than market. You got this at 6.5. You said right?
Yeah, I grabbed that 6.5. To be honest, I don't think it matters. I mean,
No.
both of our, your my model and your like, I have no idea. This one is a bit scary for me. Now it's moved, so it's a bit less scary because the market clearly didn't care that much. But like, I see no way in which this should be. There is zero way this should be a 7-point game. This should not be decided by a touchdown. This shouldn't be decided by 2 touchdowns. This should be decided by like
Yeah.
this Pitt team just lost to West Virginia. This UNC team put away South Carolina, a team that was competitive with Georgia and Minnesota, and got the job done against App State. Now, okay, App State scored a bunch of points against them, but like I think this Pitt team is horrible. Maybe people are saying, oh, maybe there's some people who want to bet against North Carolina. I don't know. I have no idea what this. I'm a bit scared of this line now, but I'm on you. Like, I'm scared about this, but my model is so clearly on UNC. I don't know why this seems like a trap, but I feel like it might be. I'm on it. I'm not going to put a ton on this, but I'm on this. I'm on UNC here.
Yeah, I guess in fairness, that's the one thing that might kind of go haywire here is Narduzzi has one kind of out of nowhere game. You've
Yeah.
always got that, but I don't know. UNC, like we talked about in the metric section, is just they're pretty solid. So
Unless that's what they think this is. They think this is the Pitt's not that bad. They'll bounce back, but like actually no, they're not going to bounce back.
yeah, I don't know if they have the pieces on offense to bounce back.
Mm-hmm.
Air Force at San Jose State, we both like this. I was very pleased to see that your model actually likes Air Force more than I do. I'm kind of partial to Air Force. I think that they still seem a little bit underappreciated. Any thoughts on this?
Yeah, I mean the thing is, last week one of the ones we talked about was Liberty -3.5 at Buffalo or against Buffalo. We had Liberty Mass. We both had Liberty Mass as favorites. I think when you get into G5 schools and you see short spreads like this, and our model thinks one. Like I'd love to know what our record is. I'm fairly sure we have like an insane record when we have a massive spread in these
Yeah,
games, and because I feel like they're trying to trap people into thinking these games will be close because like they're like, oh, Air Force struggled against San Houston State. Well, everybody did, and I think they're like San Jose because like I think they rely on people only seeing certain like combing through the like only seeing some top levels like, oh, San Jose State like covered the spread against USC, right? So therefore, they must be like pretty good, right? Although they got absolutely dominated by Oregon State, right? So I think this is I lean Air Force here. My model likes that. You like that. I'm on Air Force. I already grabbed that one as well.
Okay. I couldn't figure this out, although you kind of hit on it earlier, which would be explaining this. I really like Fresno. This number is moved to 27.5. And I think your number is low because of last year before basically everybody left the program, like literally everybody. I'm
Yeah,
curious if you
there's
just
still
had
good
this
Kent
year's, this
State.
would probably be closer to my number. Yeah.
This is there's still some good Kent State in there.
Yeah. I'm a little befuddled why yeah, because there's no good Utah State. Um, so I don't know what's driving this next one here. I really like JMU. This has actually moved up to 6.5 already. I got it at 5.5. I like
I
them
haven't
getting
grabbed this one
14.
yet. The thing is, I feel like the problem is so I think with my model really like JMU versus Virginia. Then Virginia covered the spread against them, and then they got absolutely annihilated by Maryland. And my
Yeah.
model isn't particularly taken with Maryland, so I think that's kind of dragging them down a little bit. Um, and they had some weird games at the end of last year. I think that one of those is in there as well. I'm not sure, um, but I'd lean JMU here. It is on the other side of the country, though. Maybe that's why the spread is shorter because it's pretty decent travel.
Okay. Yeah, maybe that's part of it. It looks like that might get kind of late too. It's kind of on the bottom of the schedule there. UCLA at Utah. You grabbed this one too. You said I actually have my immature premature model loves UCLA, has them number 2 in the nation. Um, but you actually like them more than my model or than my brain does in this game, not my model. I can't get this one yet. I think that's around the uncertainty around Cam Rising might come back, but you got to. It needs to be noted that as we talked about in part one, Utah had one great play against Florida, and after that it was just a rock fight. And then Utah also caught Baylor with their backup quarterback, and they barely pulled that out too. Now, granted, that was Utah's backup quarterback, but it's I think Utah is getting overvalued here. Obviously that's why I like UCLA, but the fact that you and I both like UCLA here. Do you have Nate Johnson? Does your model have Nate Johnson as a QB in this one?
Let me check that. Yeah, it has Nate Johnson. Yeah.
Okay, so maybe Rising should move them up, although who knows how healthy he is. UCLA's defense, UCLA's solid on both sides of the ball too. You remember last week they were one of the few teams that was in the top 10 in Apex and GGAB on offense. So now they haven't played the toughest opponents yet, but it's not like they're a one-trick pony, and their defense is pretty solid too.
Yeah, I'm a little less worried about this. I think the model has a weird history of when it makes a stand in a Pac-12 game with a spread that seems pretty short. It's usually very accurate. Cause I swear this game literally happened a year ago. It was either UCLA at Utah or like Washington at. It was some combination of UCLA, Utah, or Washington, or some combination two of those three. I can't remember what it was. It was a Friday night game as well. I think this is a Saturday game, but I remember it being a Friday night game. I think it was a short spread. I think the dog was 4.5. It was a 4.5 point dog. I love the underdog, and they just absolutely crushed the other team. I can't remember who it was, but I remember it was definitely one of those three teams.
That
Do you
sounds like
remember?
Washington and Oregon.
No, it wasn't. No, it was in October. It was like late September, early October. Let me check this.
Ah,
Uh, uh no.
that's UCLA Utah, is it not?
I think it was UCLA Utah last year. Yeah.
Yeah, yeah.
Let me check. It may have been UCLA Utah. Uh, yeah, at Utah. Yeah, they were. It was. It doesn't say the date here, but yeah, it was. They were 3 point. Now I got it at 4.5. I think it went down to 3. It was 42-32, and that was they came. They kind of just scored late to get that close. But yeah, it was exactly this. This happened, or it was a UCLA game. Yeah, It was either with them versus Washington or them versus Utah. And I remember everybody was on the favorite. My model loved the dog, and I bet the dog, and then I won that. I remember that. So yeah, I'm not worried about this. I trust my model in weird Pac-12 games where the spread seems short. So
Very specific area of trust. Um,
yes,
this last one here. Do you have access to team totals? I just inferred this from the line and
I'm gonna
over
call that
under.
up. I
Yeah,
do have
because I
access.
can't imagine. Yeah.
Okay, yeah, no, that's about right. Over six and a
Oh,
half
there's
minus.
no
So
way.
Sam Houston. So it doesn't give me an exact team total. Sam Houston State over 6.5 minus 450, over 9.5 minus 220, over 13.5 plus 130. So it's about a
Wait. Over 6.5 is plus 450.
minus 450. So over six and a
What?
half minus 450. So to get it
Oh
over a
yeah, yeah, yeah.
touchdown, they're
Oh
saying minus
man.
450, which seems a bit high. Over 9.5
Yeah.
minus 220,
No.
but then over 13.5 they're
All
saying
right.
plus
Yeah.
130. So they're putting a band there around a touchdown and a field goal
Like
versus two
between.
touchdowns.
Yeah. Yeah. Okay. So it's closer to 11 and a half. And I don't get the team totals until later. But I can't. Do you see them scoring a touchdown and a field goal and then something on top of that? Or two touchdowns?
No,
It just there's no way.
I
So
think that's
yeah,
very
I think
difficult.
I think I might
And
just
now
play the team
Houston is
total and just the game total under.
just ride all the team totals down under 9.5, under 6.5. I mean, the thing is, I feel like at a certain
So
point,
this
someone's going to crack this defense. I don't know if it's going to be Houston, but someone cracks this defense.
maybe yeah. Do they only have overs on that, or do they have unders too
You can bet over or under
on that?
on those bands.
Okay, God, what's under? Is there is there a number? What,
Yeah,
7.5
under
or?
9.5 plus one. It is the exact opposite of the ones. Under 9.5 plus
Oh my God.
175. Under
Okay.
6.5 plus
Wow.
230.
Yeah. All right. I'm doing something under with Sam Houston then, and maybe I'm completely wrong. So okay. So the blue or the bold ones here are where we agree. In addition to that, I am going with JMU. Um, I got that at 5.5, and yeah, that's it. And then so we agree on the rest. So do you have any other plays besides what we have here as
Hmm.
the 4 or the 5 in bold?
All right. Well, now that I finally broke the 0-6 streak, um, I had it over here. I think it's Texas A&M at Auburn. Or I'm not. Oh no, maybe no. It's Auburn at Texas A&M. Uh, Auburn is getting 8. I think I have it as. Where is it here? Let me just call up the exact one. Yeah, Auburn 7.5. I've seen a couple 8s. That's a noon game. I like Auburn there. Um, or specifically, I don't like Texas A&M. I have Texas A&M as 5-point favorites. I think a touchdown here is um, a very fair outcome there.
Okay.
And then let's see here. Okay, I'll do 3 plays. Give me Florida State either minus the points or money line. I think it's minus 2.5. It depends on which book you're on. Minus 2. I'm seeing minus 2.
Okay.
Or money line minus 130 against Clemson. The only reason that line is that way is because of last week. if they had have done weird things against Boston College, that line would be massive. And then for my last play, I am going to go Akron against Indiana. I think we're getting 16.
I like it. My zips.
Yeah, Akron Zips plus 16 plus 550. I have that as a functionally. I have Indiana by 0.4, 0.4 tenths of a point there. Um, yeah, I think those are I think the better plays. I was thinking about Maryland, about Michigan State against Maryland, but after that awful performance against Washington, you just can't consider that at all. And yeah, I think those I'll make those three my plays. There's not a ton of other stuff. Oh, we never even talked about Notre Dame Ohio State. Where do you lean on that one?
Yeah, I think the line is fair.
Three and a half.
It's yeah, and it's a little tricky because McCord took a pretty big step forward, and the offense did last game, but Notre Dame's in a completely different stratosphere in terms of defense. Ohio State's defense has taken a big step up too. So you've got two teams going against defenses that they haven't come close to playing before. So you don't. I think this is a lot more informative than a game to play,
Fair.
and a game to enjoy though, without a doubt.
Yeah, makes sense. Okay.
Okay. And then lastly, upsets. So when I compiled this list, I thought that I had picked this, and I just forgot to put it in there. Since I actually picked Ole Miss to win the SEC West, this is my upset before the season. So that's coming up this Saturday. I picked before the season Ole Miss over Alabama. So sounds like I was a little predictive there in terms of what we would like, not just what I would like.
Yeah. I mean, we're at a point now where we have 4 people who set upsets against Bama.
Yeah.
Fairly sure if things keep on this pace, LSU would be favored against Bama.
Yeah.
Tennessee
would be close.
It'd be close. That's a pick, maybe a field goal. Texas
It's at
A&M,
Bama.
okay.
That might be the difference.
Yeah, and then Texas A&M at Bama.
Actually, that's at Texas A&M.
Yeah. Florida Atlantic over Tulane. That took a hit with Casey Thompson.
Yeah.
Arizona over Utah, interesting. Georgia State over Marshall. Georgia State actually looks pretty good. Colorado State over Boise, that looks good. Those it's hilarious. Some of these are probably favorites now. I'm actually surprised Ole Miss isn't a favorite against Bama. I think people are just like, I think a lot of people are just like, this is Bama's last.